Fletcher, and I'm running to be your Democratic nominee right here in District 24. Thank you all for coming tonight and bearing with us to listen to what we have to say and a little bit about us. And thank you for our hosts, Heather and Kathy. It was really great last time, and this time was really great also. So before I tell you why I'm running, I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Southlake, Texas, which, does everyone know where that is? Yeah. Okay, so for those who may not, it's in northeast Dallas County. And I grew up around a lot of men and women who didn't finish high school or only finished high school. It was actually a really big deal. I remember that my best friend's mom had gone to a couple of semesters of community college. Both of my parents quit school by the age of 16 and got their diplomas through a vocational program. So I really didn't consider college an option for me, but my parents really taught me to work hard and to be a good neighbor. And our door was always open to any family member in need, and whether it be to care for them when they're older, or to provide safety from a domestic violence situation. So, like I said, growing up I didn't really consider college an option, but I graduated high school early, and while at the time I was working at a plant nursery, and my boss thought I had to go to college, so he physically took me to the local community college and signed me up. And so I started there, but unfortunately that didn't last very long because I quit school and quit my job because he started sexually harassing me. It was devastating, and it reinforced the idea that college wasn't for someone like me. So after that, I started working at a bank, and that's when my life really began to change. Mary was my manager, and she was a strong, bubbly, warm Nigerian woman, and she pushed me until I finally re-enrolled in community college. It took her about a year, but she did it, and she told me, Crystal, you live in the United States of America, you can be anything you want. A woman believed in me and made me believe in myself again, and I never forgot that lesson. So while I was at community college, I started volunteering at Family Gateway Homeless Shelter in downtown Dallas, and that ended up turning into them asking me to apply for AmeriCorps so that I could help out with the summer program for the children. And that ended up with no training at all. I ended up having to develop the summer program. There was nothing to help with, actually. I had to develop it. So I had the help of a few volunteers, and we created a program and allowed those kids to have an incredible summer. We had 30 kids ages 4 to 17 on the dart everywhere. We took them to farmers markets, to the zoo, and water parks, and lots of other local entertainment. And they didn't have to miss out on much because they were homeless that summer. And then after that, they asked me to come back and work do the after school program, which I gladly accepted the opportunity. And at the time, I was also transferring to the University of North Texas. And what that meant for me is I had to drive probably close to 100 miles a day from different places to be able to, from downtown Dallas to the community college and the University of North Texas in Denton. So at UNT, I majored in political science, and Curtis Kleinsmith was my very first professor, actually, and he taught campaigns and elections. And he's still supporting me today. He's here, and he's actually the first person that encouraged me to run for this seat. So after I graduated from UNT, I knew what I wanted to do. I I wanted to go to law school. I applied to 12 law schools. I got into most, and I got many scholarships. I ended up deciding to go to Catholic University of America in Washington, D.C. because I wanted to be where the laws were made. So my first year of law school was amazing. I was excited to be in D.C. and I didn't have to work and study for the first time in my life, which was awesome, but I got bored. I have a need to work and to help people. So I quickly went to work for legal aid in downtown Baltimore in the Child in Need of Assistance Department. So I represented children. I was their attorney, and in that role, it's a little bit different than it is in Texas. In Maryland, they have the attorney has to actually represent what the child wants, whether or not it's in their best interest. So that means at times you will have to represent that a child go back to their abuser. It's not for the faint of heart, and at first it was very difficult, but through doing it, I realized how much power it gave to the children to have a voice in their experience. So next, I started working. I started doing policy work for the nation's second largest elder advocacy group, the Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. I loved working on the Hill. It was amazing. And at the time, it was really exciting. The Affordable Care Act had just been passed. And we were working through issues with Medicare and Medicaid and trying to fill in those gaps. Actually, my very first day, my boss casually asked me to come and be included in a conference call with the White House, and it was actually President Obama on the call. It was amazing. And so I worked with unions and other groups and lobbied representatives and their staffs to help protect, for a policy to help protect seniors. And then after that led to some clinic work. So I represented some elder clients in the clinic. My very first client passed away a few days after I met with her for the first time. She had been discharged from a nursing home after her Medicare time period had lapsed, and she was discharged to a senior care facility. This facility ended up being a 2-bedroom apartment, the entire facility. And 2 other seniors were being housed there. And after my visit, I believe they let her starve to death. I was asked by her guardian to speak at her funeral, and when I looked out at the crowd that had gathered for her, I knew my purpose as a lawyer. I was going to fight for people. I was going to help people get resources they need and rebuild their lives. So after I graduated from law school, I started working for the Obama administration in the Office of Disaster Assistance just after Hurricane Sandy, right here in District 24, actually. So in that role, we worked day and night trying to, with homeowners, business owners, and communities, helping them get what they needed to rebuild what nature had torn apart. So I did everything, and from drafting loans, I dispersed millions of dollars of disaster funds and reviewed construction contracts, trained and led teams of attorneys. You name it, I did it, and that led to me so in that role, I didn't always follow the chain of command. I often jumped it. Now I didn't break any laws or anything, but I did jump it if it was necessary to be efficient and to get my disaster survivors what they needed. And so then the 2016 election happened, and I could not work for that man. So after his inauguration, I resigned my position and I started my own law firm after being accepted into the Texas Opportunity and Justice Incubator Program. I was one attorney, one of 10 attorneys chosen from across the state of Texas to be a part of that. And Now I currently run a statewide law practice where I focus on serving women, and I charge fees based on income so that I'm meeting that justice gap. Meeting the need and serving women that are typically underserved. And women have been underrepresented in the legal system historically, and so that's kind of a huge passion of mine, to be able to work hard for them and make their families whole. So why am I running? I get a lot of fulfillment out of my law practice, but after watching the Kavanaugh hearings, I decided I had to do more, and I needed to fight for justice on a bigger scale. So at that moment, I knew I needed to do something big, and this was it, right? And I promise I will work as hard for you as I did for the kids that summer. I promise I will work as hard for you as I did for the children in Baltimore who trusted me with their stories, for the elder clients that had no one else, and for the women that I stand next to today. I believe that there is hope and inspiration, and I think that you guys are doing a lot of work, and being here is great. And, more women need to step up, and this race is amazing. There are multiple women candidates, and so about policy, we'll go there. As Democrats, we all agree that I believe that healthcare is a right, not a privilege, and it should be treated as such in our government. That we need to protect our land, our water, and our elections. But how are we going to win this election? That's a really important thing, right? And the way that I'm approaching it is I'm going to be talking to everyone in every corner of District 24, and I'm going to listen, and that is actually my biggest strength. I lead by listening, for sure. And so I would like actually to hear from you all, and you can tell me what your ideas are and what your concerns are for the district. So I would like to open up to that.
We have about 7 more minutes, so if you have questions.
I can take a question. Or, yeah.
Good question. I'm probably going to be the only one to ask a question, not about what's going to happen in November, what your vision is for November 2020 election, or what we're going to do if you got elected. I'm more interested in our party's selection process, or I call it a selection, not an election, because I think a lot of people forget that the Democratic Party is largely a private organization which operates by the rules that it chooses. I think it was famously put in context by one of the leaders of the Green Party who said we could have an Easter bonnet contest if we wanted to select our candidate. But what I really am focusing on for me is what I think is important is in 2016 and 2018, a lot of people in the area were either elated or are very disappointed by the results of our primaries. In other words, the candidate that they really were rooting for didn't get elected. And so suddenly people realized that there was this thing called the Democratic Party, which had rules and structures for selecting candidates, and that they became very interested in how our party works and how our party operates. What I'm really asking is, one of the things that's important to me as a precinct chair, as a former candidate, and as a grassroots club member, is a candidate that has both a past, present, and future vision of how we're going to be a good Democrat. And what I mean by that is that candidate understands the process of overlapping districts, that they understand we have to raise money, that they understand that they have an obligation to grassroots organizations to help them function, to help them raise money. So I guess what I'm really asking is, and I want to ask this to all three candidates, and I won't be as long-winded about it with the other two, since we've already kind of kept the question out, is can you tell us about your past, present, and future vision of being a good Democrat and being present in the party to help the party function, help it raise money, and help it elect a combined ticket?
Okay. Well, I've actually, on the raising money front, I've done fairly well in the first 4 weeks. For my campaign,
No, I meant for both yourself and other candidates, and especially past. So in past years in District 24, currently what you're doing, and then what your plan is once you're an elected official to help the Democratic Party function better in our area.
So as far as past, what did I do back then?
Yeah.
Okay, I was working. I didn't do much in the Democratic Party. I was building a law practice. I was working 24/7 in disaster relief in the district. So I'm new, relatively new to politics itself. So my past is that. I think I've shown a work ethic for the community itself, in not a political arena, but in a real way. So, but as far as right now, I am doing my very best to get out and raise money and talk to key people in the community and just get a beat on what is going on in the party and in the precincts. I mean, I've been going down the list of calling every precinct chair. And so, these things that I think are important just to stay connected and to the people that are on the ground actually working, because I know what it's like to be on the ground working, right? Just not necessarily for the party. And I think in the future I will do the same thing, right? I think just staying connected to the people that are actually doing the work, the Democratic Club presidents. I mean, all of this is great work. Bringing people together like this is amazing. So.
All right, we got time for a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Can you just name your 3 top issues that you're supporting?
Sure. Healthcare, education, and jobs.
A little more detail there, maybe?
Okay, I thought you just meant list them.
No.
So as far as healthcare, I support a public option for it could be Medicare. You can call it whatever, but something to provide healthcare in kind of in the system that we have, but progressing to something I think if we have a public option, everyone will be able to have healthcare, right? So that's where I would start, but that's not where I would end. I think you press forward to make sure that, prescription drugs, you want to lower the prescription drug cost, and make sure there are no gaps in Medicare and Medicaid for seniors. It's huge. So those are really important to me. As far as education, we need to invest in our teachers. It's not charity. This work it's not giving to people. This is an investment in our future, and it's extremely important for the future of the country and the world. So, and then as far as the economy and jobs, I think we need to work on minimum wage, and not necessarily for the straight $15 an hour, but maybe regionally adjust it so that, people that are working 40 hours a week should not be below the poverty line. That should never happen in this country. So.
One more question?
Can you answer Laura's healthcare question?
Yes. Go ahead, I can answer hers too.
That's over. Do you support the three?
I think it's very idealistic. It's such a short, idealistic document. I support the ideas of it, whether it's realistic right now, I'm not sure, but we do need to take extreme measures to invest in our infrastructure like we have never done before. The climate change is really important and it's dire. So, okay, and then I'll answer this question. So I'll read it. discussion on universal health care, namely on Medicare for all. What is your position on Medicare for American? And which proposed healthcare option do you support and why? I think I've kind of explained that. A big voter group that is often overlooked are people with disabilities, which make up 25% of voters. What will you do to properly represent all people in CD24, including those with disabilities? And do you have any connection to the disability community now? So what will I do? Well, I'll secure the funding. I will support securing the funding for disability pay and make sure it's workable. I have a cousin that's actually lives off his disability. He got into an accident, and it's really interesting. It's not great that he can't work. He can work, but if he works so much that he can't get his check, and that makes absolutely no sense. Or he lives like in this weird, limbo, like trying not to work too much, and when he can. So I think that needs to be fixed. And am I connected to the disability community? I was an education advocate in Dallas for a little while. It was court-appointed volunteer work, pro bono. And the program only allowed, I had 2 girls that I was appointed to. And you had to be disabled to get appointed as an education advocate. So I still have connections. Actually, I'm going to one of their baby showers in a couple weeks. So I do support that, and I do have connections. Thank you.
Thank you.